We know that you're super enthusiastic about rapid grants, because to be here on Sunday at 9 o'clock after a party, tour, conference days, so you are our best audience we can have at this moment. You're the passionate people. So my name is Jessica Stevenson. I work with the Wikimedia Foundation, and I'm part of the community development team. And I have the honor to have been invited by the CEE Hub to host this panel. And we're going to be talking about something very exciting. So it's a new service that the CEE Hub is going to offer from next year. As you know, the CEE Hub already has microgrants. Many of you have been part of the microgrants. And now they're expanding this, and they are going to take on the responsibility of the rapid grants that the Wikimedia Foundation has traditionally supported with the Regional Funds Committee in the Central and Eastern European region and Central Asia. And so this is a big thing that we've been discussing for almost or just over a year now. So hooray, we finally came to design initial phase. It's a testing phase of how this is going to work, and we're going to go through some of the ideas of how that's going to operate. But because it's an experiment, because it's the first year that the Hub is going to do this, it really requires a collective participation. So everybody's ideas, you've lived through the grants or you want to access grants, so let's do this together. And half of this time we're going to be spent just hearing you, asking questions, and this is going to be something we're going to be collectively building, learning, adjusting as we go along. So to join me here in the panel, we have wonderful Tony, who all of you know, and he is going to be now taking the responsibility of these. For now, we're going to call them rapid grants in the CEE Hub. They might have a new sexy name in the future. So Tony will be telling, he's also a really amazing cyclist, so if you want to talk about cycling. We have Chris, who works with the foundation. He's been the person in charge of the rapid grants for this region. And he's going to be working very closely with Tony in this collaboration. And he is an amazing taiko Japanese drummer, so you have to talk to him about this. And Clara, look, Clara didn't know this. And Clara is very famous. She is one of the pillars of the CEE Hub, and also the executive director of Wikimedia Czech Republic. And she is one of the people in the steering committee in the Hub that's been driving this conversation. So they are the best people here to talk about this. And I'd like to just start by asking, why this decision? So tell us a little bit more. And I think I'm going to hand this first to Chris from the foundation perspective. Why are we doing this wonderful thing?
Yeah, thanks, Jessica. So there's a couple things that come to mind around sort of the why, and why is this transition happening? The foundation has had rapid grants and now rapid funds for a very long time. We've been managing the process for, in its current form, for about 4 years, and we've had other microgrant programs before it for maybe even another 5 years on top of that. So very natural to ask about why it would be a transition. Why would we be moving the management and sort of decision-making of this process to another entity, the CEE Hub in this case. And just to be clear, there are some aspects of this process that would not change, which is that a lot of this discussion is going to revolve around the review and also the kind of final decision-making over individual proposals. But in terms of the work around actually sending funding, that would still be maintained and sort of held by the Wikimedia Foundation itself. So for those of you who have interacted with us before around funding, maybe you've talked with Janice or with Morgan or other members of the grants admin team, that process would continue to happen around the work of actually transferring funds around individual proposals. But getting back to the sort of rationale and why, there's two things. I think first is way back when we decided on the different aspects of movement strategy, the 2030 movement strategy. One of those aspects had to do with the concept of subsidiarity, which is, for those of you not familiar with the term, it's a term that means that there's a preference for decision-making around, in this case, resource distribution that should be as local and close to those communities as possible. And so, in our current context and sort of our current mechanisms in the movement that would allow us to do that, the CEE Hub has been working very closely with many communities and affiliates, of course, in the CEE region, and has a lot of useful and up-to-date knowledge on what resourcing needs exist for different communities and affiliates, and also initiatives, both new and existing. And so the CEE Hub is pretty well positioned in many ways to responsively and to maybe more strategically think about what kinds of funding are needed to serve different priorities in the CEE region. The second reason is sort of more general, so not so much about subsidiarity specifically, but more about hubs in general and how they've been sort of forming and what functions or roles they've been playing in the region. So among other things, one of those functions for some hubs has been some interest in the work of resource distribution. And already, Tony, you have been, and others in the CEE Hub have been involved with the microgrants program that the CEE Hub has been running and maintaining. And so there are some hubs in the movement that have an interest and are developing good capacities and practices around how to distribute funding within their own region already. So these two kind of factors, I think, help us think about, think that this sort of transition of moving our current Rapid Fund program to expand the resource distribution opportunities within the region is a beneficial and positive thing.
Thank you very much, Chris. And I'd like to hear now from Clara. Is it going to stay the same? What changes are you thinking in this process? What are your ideas?
Yeah, thanks. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, I think Chris covers that all. I was all the time thinking what I'm gonna add. So no, thank you for that, because you explained it like quite well. I might play like the devil's advocate then. We can as well like talk about what was like part of this like decision making as well, what was our doubts, and I think it came to the mind of people here and maybe somewhere online. The biggest like discussion was about what does this make to our relationship with the communities, and that hub is there in the first place for like supporting everyone in like striving and like going forward. And if this like shift doesn't make something in like this like power balance, so why I'm starting with this is as well about how we want to do this, because for us, we at least like in the steering committee, and I hope everyone like who's around hub see this pilot project as on the first place like supporting program, supporting for everyone in the region. Like we should be the one who serve, who knows our community and our affiliates and user groups, and as well individuals who might be alone in what they are doing. And I think we quite like, even with the microgrants, I can remember when we brought them. Of course, it's not like the new format, but we were really much discussing how there were lots of like maybe concerns about this. But the way I think we handled, or like mostly like Tony and Barbara Hub handled the microgrants, is really like to support the one who should get them. They'll as well like actively approach the people who could get some support, but it didn't even occur to them. So I think we are putting this like just into the small, like bigger bucket, and we want to have like the more ongoing support for the one that we work with, because then we don't tell them like, hey, you can be supported. It's not just on the level of information, but as well it's on the level of actual financial support. So we want to create a process that will be somehow like more fluid, because just it's under one roof. I don't think that was like anything but around how it's handled now. But I just feel that we can more like work with recipients about where are they going, what can be their journey, and I think we will be more focused as well on actually delivering the project and maybe support in the different phases, because we just will have like maybe much less people around this than you had like with everything what's like going on. So I think, and Tony as well, I love that he will take over not just like the rapid grants, but the micro grants as it is. It can create some like fund for communities, fund for CEE, Central and Eastern Europe communities, which we are quite close to. So I hope that we will create the process that works, that's suitable to everyone, and that's as well adjustable to everyone's needs, because someone else might need the individual in Poland for supporting its project, someone else might need the whole community somewhere else. So that's what we are trying to do, and that's well as what we will start to do now. It's like very slow transitioning from you to Tonchi. You will be co-working together for some time now, for a few months, and Tony will be like actually like learning and looking for what's like what works, what might be slightly different, or what can be maybe transformed to the CE reality. So that's the long questions to your short answer.
Thank you. Is there anything you want to add, Tony, to changes? So what would a grant journey look like from when people start to apply to when they're reporting? What changes do you see will happen in the process with this new?
Will happen. Or will happen much. Yeah. So I think in the working group that they will form for this process, taking over the rapid funds and creating the process. Me and Barbara, that's something that we are doing. The microgrants can be very beneficial of the comments that we are receiving when we are saying to people from the microgrants, grantees, now you can apply for rapid fund. Many comments are like in direction that took a long time. It's very complicated for us. That's the biggest time and questions that they don't understand. For the microgrants, okay, it's a smaller amount of the money that they are asking, but I think the application is very simple and they're understanding, and that's I think that the comparison that they have with the rapid funds. So we need to be like somewhere in the middle, probably in the future, with the rapid funds in the first place. But also like with the time, we need. I think that area should be much more like in the focus in the next period, like this timeline, and also when. You had like that focus session done for us, like with the grantees from the microgrants program. We received very good info that they're like appreciating that timeline and like getting responses very very prompt and on time. So I think that like getting a timeline and like notifying them like very often, even much more like than even in the microgrants that we are doing currently. I think that from my side, because that will be my job, I think that that will be something that we need to do in the future.
There was one other point I wanted to make in the earlier question around sort of the why of this whole transition. For context, when the Rapid Grant sort of program was first organized at the foundation, this would have been probably about 7 or 8 years ago now, when I had just started at the foundation, pretty much. Our timeline around kind of the time from when we would receive a proposal to when we would make a funding decision was about 30 days. These days, the process is different, and we have many, many more rapid fund proposals that we receive to the foundation than when the program was started. And so, because of those two factors, in part, the process is longer. And these days, the amount of time that passes between when we receive the proposal to making a funding decision is about 45 days. And then there's some additional time to actually transfer funds on top of that. I think this has led to legitimate criticism of the Foundation's program because it no longer feels rapid. And I think that's very fair, just to be clear. And so there's also, I think, some potential in this transition because the CE Hub has shown a lot of excellence in responsiveness and its own microgrants program to review and process those grants, that it seems likely to me that a successful transition in this process would support much quicker, review and decision-making processes for many proposals. There still might be some exceptions where, there's some communication and sort of revision needed for some proposals, of course. But for the majority of proposals, we feel that the process is likely to be much faster than it currently is.
Thank you. So I'm seeing some clear benefits. The issue of being closer to the communities, offering them support, as Clara says, making application more accessible, making the decision-making faster, so the funds are transferred. Are there any other benefits to this change? And are there any risks that you see and how you're hoping to mitigate these risks, if there are any? So I might start with Tony and then end with Clara.
Okay, so about the risk, when we had the workshop of the year 4, it was an excellent question, and we need to have a distinction between microgrants and CE Hub Rapid Funds, or whatever we will call the program. It will need to be a clear boundary, and clear explanation where when people should apply for the microgrants and when they need to apply for the rapid funds. That I think it can be a very meaningful job to do. And about some other beneficiaries that can be for the regions, I can say that our aim, when we started even to think about this, is that we know the region much better than Chris, although he knows very well, but we are in much more close communications now with Kara, taking communications with the meetings and everything much more often. We know almost everyone in the region, and in some cases when we don't know that individual, we can much easier ask and get a response if they know that person, who is that person. They can share more details about that. We can ask affiliate about the information about that grantee, and so it's much more close and prompt with the responses about the grantee.
Jessica, so the question here is about risks and benefits that we perceive. Sure. So I've talked a bit about benefits. So I think a potential risk in the transition is that, so agreed with you, Tony, that I think, you and other folks in the CE Hub have a tremendous amount of, knowledge and experience about different affiliates in the region, different communities in the region. And also, I have different kind of knowledge from my work with individual grantees, both past and present. And I think one risk is that, for example, in this transition, that we don't dedicate time and energy to sort of transferring that knowledge, to the new sort of decision makers and new reviewers who might be involved with this new process. So one way we're working to mitigate that, actually starting today, is that Tony is going to be actually working together with me to review and to sort of ask questions to me about how I review Rapid Funds currently, to talk about the process that I generally use when I receive a proposal. How am I reading it? What am I paying attention to? What questions do I ask applicants when there is like a need for clarity or a concern, or if I want to make a suggestion? And also, Tony will probably be also talking to me about the ways that you've been doing that in the context of the microgrants program as well. We are meeting for lunch today, and we are going to be starting this work in earnest to make sure that we are sort of getting things started early to begin to share a lot of our own knowledge and experience around the practice of review and decision making, and what that looks like now and what it could look like in the future.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I still somehow feel like that our closeness to the communities can go both ways. It can be great opportunity for really help the people to get where they need to get. Of course, sometimes it's very easy. Someone wants to support this activity and be supported, but sometimes can be something like broader, something like, because our closeness to the community as well, I think, offers to offer much often. So then there might come harder decision in the terms of this belongs to the CEE? Does it belong to the Wikimedia community? I just had yesterday maybe 2 discussions that I wasn't sure, and I'm not envy Tony that he will probably needs to discuss this with the people. So I'm sure something needs to change, and at least we will probably finding how our decision-making process looks like, how much independent Tony is in this decision. Does he need anyone else there? Does he need some maybe independent committee that hasn't been needed so far for rapid grants?
Right.
But it might come, because he knows the people. He will know personally probably everyone who will apply. So then there comes these questions naturally, and it's more than fair to ask them. And so this I can see as advantage and disadvantage in the same time. But we can all figure it somehow together. And there probably need to be a system how to, let's say, how to complain, how to review this. But we was already discussing that we want to more help and discuss with people in this phase of intention to ask for the grants, because then there could be the good way and maybe the better way to ask. And and it's my personal, but one advantage I can see is that I hope that we will just find more about needs of the communities, and then we could maybe evaluate and just get more statistics, more information just about what time of grants or applications there is, and what are the outcomes. We can maybe compare then regions in between better. We can compare the projects in between better. Because I think if you have just really this you are focusing on, then you can play with it. I know how I work with my data in affiliate. So I think this can really bring something interesting about how we operate, how is this different from the other regions maybe in the future. So just to data and just to compare, so this is what I'm thinking of.
Thank you, Claude. I think that's a really interesting point you make about the outcomes and the evaluation, because I think it really gives us an opportunity to learn from what is the impact of these rapid grants, and how maybe collectively in the region there can be a shared understanding of where you want to strategically invest and what type of programmatic support there should be so that these rapid grants do produce the outcomes that they want. And I think that will be a big shift, right? Thinking about collective metrics, about strategic investments and where we're going. And so I'd like to know, and I think maybe for the audience that don't know a lot about grants, it's good to mention a little details about how the rapid grants work today in terms of the amount of funding. So it's up to $5,000 US. The minimum, I think, is 500. Yeah, 500. And the microgrants, the CE hub is operating today, go up to 700 USD. So the idea is to maintain those limits, at least in the first experimentation. But obviously with all these changes that have been explained. Finally, before we go into the audience, very briefly, Clara, if you can tell us what are the next steps? What is the timeline to implement this?
As we do have Chris here, we can use him till the end of our rapid cooperation, meaning that we will, that Tony and Chris, we will closely work together. They already started to some sharing know-how and just shadowing. I don't know if this is the proper term, but shadowing Chris' position, and we don't want to hurry this up because as well Tony is still part of the CE Hub staff. We need to find his replacement for his current position, so it's really important to keep these activities going as well, so he hopefully soon will be as well on board, the new person for his position. So this is really everything that we need to take into account. And so the plan is that for the next round of the rapid grants, Tony will observe and learn, and for the next one it will be more closer cooperation. And meanwhile we will be mostly Tony, but as well with our support, with the support of the steering committee and Barbara, creating a new system and making the documentation for the grantees and preparing everything for smooth transition, probably from this round in April, más o menos, and we'll see if this stays the same, if the rounds will stay the same, or if this will be consecutive, if we want another form. Anything now is open. We've already created several options how to, and we discussed almost I think everything around this the process so far, what could be different, what can be changed. We would definitely want to focus as well of bigger support for the one who's intent to apply, something like that. So this is really about us playing the supportive role as well, but there are some hard questions that we need to as well answer, and we will have few months for that.
Great. Okay. So now we'd love to hear questions, comments, observations, concerns. The floor is yours, and I'm going to run with the mic to give you voice. Oh, there's another mic. Okay, I don't have to run. I was excited about that task. Oh, I have to do it.
Hi, Matej. Maybe I'll just stand on the side, so I'm not I was definitely one of those people who were saying that the rapid grants aren't rapid enough. I'm sure we've had this conversation at some point. So, to give a background, I guess, our community in Slovakia is quite small. right? So oftentimes we have kind of a year plan where we just list activities that we would like to do, but since we're all volunteers, we cannot really commit to many of these, right? So oftentimes the final decision to go ahead with a project or with an event or something is taken like a month before. It also depends a lot on the partners. Sometimes it's a very last minute decision. And this is where the microgrants were really helpful, because it really, the response time was like 10 days, and we knew that we were going to get this money, and this was really helpful. Whereas in the rapid grants, we just didn't have that time. Right? So I definitely welcome a shortening of the period. But on the other hand, I also understand if the money is a bit bigger, then there definitely maybe should be a longer period to consider different things and so on. So I understand that point of view. But the transferring still makes me a bit like, right? If it still takes, let's say 10 days to decide, but then it takes another 10 days to send the money over, then a lot of that flexibility of the decision making is, well, maybe not lost exactly, but diminished, right? So that was one of my other kind of thinking, right? And the other thing is, if you have those rounds, right, that might also make things a bit less flexible, right? If okay, like let's do an event in 2 months. Oh yes, but the next round isn't 2 months, right? So yeah, Tamás wants to say something.
Sorry, I just wanted to say that this was my question, that if you are considering to change this round system to a continuous application possibility, because now we have this every second month rounds, which is not a long time frame, but it is somehow limiting the possibilities. And I never did this type of grant decision making, so is it possible that it is just continuously offered, and we have somebody comes, then it can be, the decision can be made, because it would be more flexible and fast.
No, that's all right. Let me respond to Matej, to your question first, and then Tomas, and then if there's any other responses that folks want to make, let me know. So the concern again was, because the foundation will continue to handle the sort of grants administration side of this process, the sort of collection of information over where to send funds, and then actually sending the funds from the United States still. That there's a concern that this could continue to be a substantial amount of waiting time that could make it difficult to do responsive programs to opportunities that might exist. And the one thing I want to, I think, say about this is I think the question of where does the transferring of funds happen from would present some difficulties no matter where that is, because if it's not the foundation, the question is who's going to do it. The CEE Hub has some capacity to transfer funds through its microgrants program, but every country has its own sort of legal and regulatory considerations to consider and to account for before fundings are transferred out. And so it's important that for whomever is sort of going to own that process, that they are prepared to evaluate and sort of review those regulatory needs, so that the work of sending funds isn't going to, one, get their organization in trouble if they're not following the law, basically to follow local regulations in whatever country that is. And then also, if there are funding restrictions on the other side for whoever's receiving funds from that country, that they're not going to get in trouble for receiving funds from that country. So this is another set of criteria that, for whomever is stepping into the work of grants administration, that they would need to take ownership of. And in the future, it's possible that the CEE Hub may want to do that. But in this initial stage, the clarity that I've gotten from the two of you is that is not a function that they're ready to step into yet. And so in order for this process to work, the foundation is sort of best placed to continue to hold this work until a time comes when that capacity might get built in the CE Hub in the future. So I think my main answer here for now is that, yes, this could continue to sort of occupy some time, but the alternative is, you know, an organization or some other entity, maybe like a fiscal sponsor potentially, that for whom like those same, you know, considerations would still exist. And so there still would be time needed to evaluate based on a different set of legal frameworks to be able to know that the sending of funds is being done in a legally sound way. Tomas, for your question, you had asked about the right, continuous rounds. So so Rapid Funds used to operate this way, right? The Rapid Grant Program, when it started, it used to operate where we would just have open applications. We moved to a round system, again, because of the volume of proposals, and we were not able to successfully sort of respond to proposals that were sent in on a rolling basis in a very consistent manner. So we moved to a round system to make that response period more consistent during different times of the year. I think the question about whether we can go back to that system in this transition is something that I don't have the answer to right now. It's something that depends a little bit on the CE Hub's own capacity to review proposals on that kind of schedule. That is, you know, anytime a proposal is sent in. And it also depends on, again, our grants admin team and their ability to transfer funds out throughout the entire calendar year. I will say there are definitely some periods of time that the foundation closes its own sort of functions to send out funds, and those tend to come at like the end of December, which is a major holiday season in the United States, and then also towards the end of the fiscal year for us, which is the end of June. So there are some periods where, while they're relatively short, you know, there may be less capacity to, you know, send funds flexibly during those periods of the year. The rest of the year, though, is possible, but again, we don't know yet. We have to have a conversation with the grants admin team to determine this.
Yes, well, I have 2 points on my mind. One, I think what we haven't done yet, it's this important conversation with like grants team about exactly this, how like to have the process of actually sending money and like making contracts with the grantees the most effective. And I think we might find some steps that might be maybe more effective, especially in the terms of like preparing grantees for receiving money, because there can be some obligations that they didn't count, especially if they are like first receivers, around like, you know, what you need to claim to be even able to sign the contract, which kind of paperwork needs to be done towards foundation. For example, you need to claim that you have like a bank account and which one. So this is, I think, something we can as well doing more effectively, even in the first phase of like intention or sending, because Tony or like whoever will meanwhile can as well prepare the recipients for this future to be probably process. If you will actually get the fund, you will need to definitely claim this. If you want to speed this up, get these 3 papers prepared. That's the first step. And then we can definitely like effectively have like this system, but it's like our internal I think like responsibility to do this. About ongoing, yes, I think it's like one of the possibility that we will like consider. I'm just thinking about that we would then probably need to somehow divide like the sum for a whole year into some quarters, you know, just like to be fair, not to drain all the money on the beginning. So maybe still there might be, I don't know, 4 or 5, sorry. Yeah, like limits in the quarter that we willing to spend there. So again, like anything can happen, and I think we can be slightly more flexible because it's just up to us. But there definitely can be the situation that doesn't fit to everyone, but we will try to do our best and review this like consecutively. Yep.
We only have a few minutes, so
Just a very quick response comment that an argument that now we try to decrease the waiting time with speeding up the process from 45 days to 30 days. But if we have a 2 months waiting time, in worst case, then it is 3 months. So if we can omit this 2 months waiting time, which is sometimes just 1 month, it can change a lot of the process, and there is a less stress on the decision making that we save 2 days or 3 days because we are making the decision faster or the procedure faster. And even if there are some time when there are more requests for funding, then the procedure takes like, let's say, a week longer. It's still better than the waiting the 2 months.
Are there any other questions? Over here.
Hello. Probably Chris can answer that. In the last days before the meeting, I was really stressed by the fact that I was signing the contracts, but as a legal entity, only Marios could make the actual bank transfers. So our bus factor was 1, and we were making payments to our partners at least even the last days. So how fast can the foundation be in a situation when maybe Marios was killed in an accident, was hit by a bus?
Hopefully not. This is not my expertise, but I can, you know, just speaking more generally, when there are situations where there is a signatory who becomes unavailable, to me the question would be, is there another signatory that is possible to get connected to that account, so that, you know, if one signatory is not available, is it possible to have multiple signatories for your organization, especially if there is a sort of heavy amount of you know, need for funds to be moving in and out of your account. The dependence on one person only can sometimes be a risk.
Well, the question was because per Greek legal system, which is like running a marathon with hurdles, blindfolded in a heat wave, the only one person could make the actual bank transfers. No second person. So that you would need to send the money to a personal account.
Let's talk more about this afterwards.
Is there any last question or comment? Yes, final question here. Maria Magdalena, beautiful name.
Thank you very much. You will have new applicants. We're the newcomers at the table, and I would like to know about the most common problems you have encountered in reviewing the applications. What should we pay attention to us new applicants, as first-time applicants? Thank you.
So yeah, excellent question, because like we are receiving that kind of microgrants applications as well. So one way to mitigate that, when can to help and support the newcomers, is to point out like a good application, to see like how they can start writing. But also, as Clara mentioned, like this process also, because it's still not defined in the entirely. It is like one of the pillars of the hub when it was formed. It was to create a support during writing of the applications. So that part also should be a part of this process, and we don't know how it will look like, but yes, we will definitely need to think about that.
In the rapid funds context, I think two things come to mind in terms of like issues I see with new applications from new applicants. One of them is that there's a sometimes lack of a connection between the expected outcomes and the goals that the organizer kind of wants to see as for the event. So sometimes I'll see statements around goals that look like, you know, we want to kind of bring the community together, kind of bring them closer together to help people get to know each other. But then I will only see metrics about like number of articles that get made, which is still useful. That's not, you know, that's still valuable, but it's disconnected from why you're telling me why you want to run the event. And that sometimes I will want to ask more about that, to understand what connections you're seeing between what you want to evaluate or what you hoping will happen and why you want to run the event, because there should be a good connection between those things in general. The second thing is, I've lost it, unfortunately. I think with budget items, definitely one thing is that sometimes there are budget items that don't have like a clear descriptor around them. So it will, for instance, say something like other or like miscellaneous, and I won't really understand like what you hope to use that funding for, or what kind of purpose it serves in the rest of the proposal. So sometimes I will ask for a bit more information around specific budget items that I feel like haven't been described in the proposal, or like don't have a clear connection to the activities or events. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think we need to close. Yes, that's correct. Also, just to say, there's some great resources for newcomers who are writing rapid funds, so we can point you on Meta to where some of those like videos, examples, walk you through the current application. And I'm sure the hub will be working on renewing these resources in their support system. Yeah, and Claudius wants to do the final closing here.
For really the first timers, I think what we really do appreciate if you just come to the open hours and just like and have a meeting with Tonci, like straightforward, and say, hey, Tony, this is what we are thinking about. Does this fit to the CEE Hub microgrants program, whatever? This is what we are thinking. We would like to do this and that. And he can as well give you like instant like reply. I would be focusing on this, on that. And from what I heard, I'm thinking as well about, and there are people who do this there. So like, you know, we want to do this. Like sometimes they call it letter of intention, when you just say what you would like to do in your mind, like where this like goes to. And in this phase, you will hear exactly what you haven't maybe think of in the terms of like this very boring grants background. So for everyone, just do this. Don't be like, don't hesitate. There's no way you do anything wrong, and this is exactly what we want to like have. and it really can help you like with some work that would then like be maybe wasted. So just do this, have a meeting, and then build around that.
That's a fantastic note to end on. Thanks, Clara. And thank you, everybody, for joining. You are the grant lovers to be here so early. Thank you to our panelists.
Who did that? Thank you, Asaf. I just thought that because I'm supposed to start at 10, so I should give them, some breathing space. Good morning. My name is Anna, as you can see here. And for those who know me and have been into other CEE meetings that I've spoken, they know that I really love talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and also about communication. So I also, on a professional level, I help people to practice their public speaking skills. So one of the things that I say, a very easy tip, is before you go on stage, you just repeat to yourself, I'm not stressed, I'm excited, right? Instead of, because we always feel our heart, hitting quickly. So I just say, I'm not stressed, I'm excited. But today, I want you to see me and say, she doesn't have a hangover, she's just stressed. Because I really had a wonderful time at the party last night, and it's not a good idea to do that when you're speaking so early, in a way, in the morning on a Sunday. So just bear with me today. I will try to make it as interesting as possible, because I assume you both are in the same situation, or I hope you are, as me. All right, so we're going to talk today about words and how they matter and how they shape who stays in our movement. And I'm going to start with this. The biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. And this is usually attributed to George Bernard Shaw, but it's not a definite quote by him. We can open a discussion on Wikipedia on whether it is or not. So feel free. That's why I didn't put it in quotes. I think this is honestly the biggest problem in communication. And when we talk about words, of course, we're talking about communication. I usually say the example of you write a message and you put it in a bottle, like they used to do back in the old days, and you just throw it in the sea, right? Does that mean that you communicated? No, right? Because the communication works in a circle, and in order to say that we have successfully communicated something, it means that we have the message, we have the message, we have the person who received it, and successful communication means that the message has been understood. Doesn't mean that it has to be accepted or the person has to agree with us, but at least they understood what we wanted to say. And this is a very big problem that I think we're facing as a community, but it's something that all communities face. So we have the questions, how do we treat communication? Usually the problems start when we treat it as an aftermath and not as a structural thing, as infrastructure in whatever we do, right? So we organize events, or we produce results, but if we don't communicate it, it means it's kind of like it never happened, especially now that we live in the era of social media. You know, we need to reach people, and we need to reach them where they're at. So we need to start thinking of communication as something essential in everything that we're doing. The next thing is communication is what keeps people in communities. Actually, is what keeps people connected anyway, where they communicate. But when you are welcoming people with the language you use, this is what keeps people connected to you. And on the opposite side is what drives them away. When you use harsh language or non-inclusive language, you have the opposite results. So why we have the opposite results? Because language creates culture, right? It's so important to remember that the way we communicate, the way we talk about our teams or to our teams, it creates a culture, and people are listening the whole time, and they make assumptions or whether they are this is a good fit for them, or they are gonna be included, or they don't belong. So words signal belonging or exclusion, and something very important also is the tone. And I would like to say this because we are people that a lot of us are neurodivergent, and a lot of the times we have difficulties in expressing ourselves in either in a very lively way or sometimes in a very lively way, and that draws people to us, or the opposite. So we always have to put a bit of effort to understand our audience. So some examples. When we try to attract people, usually a very big challenge is how to not make people be afraid of all these technical terms. This might be what brings people to us, people that are technically the tech gurus, and this is what they come. But a lot of people, but we need to bring people also into our movement that are people that are not technical, tech knowledgeable, and we want to make them feel that we will give them the time and the space so that they can learn through us. I don't know if it's Anton yesterday used in another meeting like this, gave an example. It was when our failings, and Anton said about sometime that he ran an event in somewhere in a remote village, and they went there and they didn't realize that they had to spend so much time in teaching them the basics. But I think even though Anton presented it as a failure in the sense that in the time that they calculated to give into that event, that they didn't manage to really go into the important, let's say, information, but maybe it wasn't a failure because they gave the people what they needed, right? Like the introduction and the warm space of belonging to really ask questions and start from scratch. So this is something very important. Also, what is something that I face personally also in our group as well is the hostile discussion tone. As I said earlier, sometimes it doesn't mean that the person that is talking to us is hostile. It's just we perceive it that way. So we always have to have that in mind as well. But and of course, treat the hostility straight away, with being very strict. This is something that is not acceptable. And warm recognition, I cannot repeat this more. I mean, we are a group of volunteers. I am not a big fan of the word volunteer. I like activist more, but this is the word that the movement is using. So I am using the term volunteer. So we are offering unpaid work. So our people are offering unpaid work. So the least we can do is recognize their contribution to our movement. How do we do that? Of course, it ends up to emotional intelligence. And this is something that can't be taught even to people that feel that they don't have not the natural competences to do it. So our words provoke feelings, and at any given moment, we have to acknowledge that. And as I said before, use gratitude as a retention strategy to our movement. And always listen before replying, and also don't listen to reply. Listen to understand, listen to connect, and then you can give yourself some time to reflect and respond. Also, pause, what I just did now. Pause is it's a way of communicating as well. When you pause even for a few seconds, it doesn't mean that you've lost your train of thought or you need time. You attract people's attention, right? So use that also as a strategy. When you're listening, really immerse into listening, and you can take a pause to understand what the other person says and respond to that. Storytelling also is powerful. Facts are important, numbers are important, but it's so much more interesting to learn about, let's say, a librarian that did an amazing job in uploading all this information on Wikipedia and doing it in a specific time frame rather than just seeing a percentage. So focus on the story of the individual. Also, a newcomer that came and found their place in the movement. This is a story that should be shared and will make people connect. And also it brings trust across borders. So every message is a building block, right, to make a more solid community. So some practical shifts: to use inclusive language, very small examples like even not using the phrase good morning guys and just say good morning people, makes a big difference. Also simplify the messages. Sometimes jargon language is never helpful, and it never makes us look like we are professionals and we know what we're talking, and we're talking on a higher level. No, we need to understand our audience and use language that they can understand. Again, show gratitude. Align with the vision, not only the a bigger vision of the movement, but the vision of our community as well, and localize everything that you're communicating into your own context. We are coming from a community that, like the CE, that it faced a lot of struggles and between us as countries, or even in between us. I am coming from the user group of Cyprus, which is a user group that is based mostly geographical, because we edit in Greek, Turkish, and English, so you can understand the difficulties and the challenges that we have. Not even to mention the political situation. So communication builds solidarity, is the only way forward. We communicate the best that we can in our utmost performance, and that's how we will get results. So to conclude, I will say that how we talk shapes who stays in our movement, and our words create the culture that our movement, our community wants to share with the rest of the world. So small shifts, big impact. Just think individually, what is a very small thing that you can do to change the way you communicate, so you're more understood and you draw people towards you. Thank you. You understand that my pace was a bit because, I need to get, but I am good. Nico said that I am right on time. So I'm open to questions, please. I would love your questions. Or comments. Just to show that you were listening, Yeah.
So on that, I really appreciated your message here, and I wanted to add that one of the biggest lessons I found in how to communicate better is that people want to feel heard, and that is different from being heard. They may have in fact been heard, but if they don't feel heard, it's not effective from their perspective. And so here I'm asking a question, making you feel heard, as you just said. Yeah, so that's the biggest lesson I have to offer on communication. Make sure you make people feel heard.
How do you do that?
Well, there's a bunch of ways you could do that. You could...
Have you heard me?
you could show that you heard them by responding in ways that quote or relate to what they just said. You like prove that you heard them. You could also literally repeat what they just said, which is called mirroring, which may sound silly, but is actually effective. But even better is to paraphrase what they said, because then it's not just parroting what they said, but you show that you understood, you processed what they said.
Thank you, Asaf. And last year I was fortunate enough to participate in the Learning Day, and your sessions were very helpful towards that direction on effective communication.
Well, it's important to remember that communication in person and communication through text are two different communications, because when you talk in person, that person sees your facial expression, hears the tone of your voice, hears accents, and that is all of that is not present when you write a text. And sometimes it happens that I wrote to some people to point out their mistakes, and I intended to do it in a friendly, helpful manner, but I put a dot in the end of the sentence instead of a smile, so people felt almost like I shouted at them. So there should be some ways to convey in text what is not conveyed, like emotions, facial expression, accents, and tone.
Thank you, Anton. Yes, I mean, in 15 minutes we cannot go in depth with that, but that is so important, because exactly it depends what means of communication you're using, whether you are, talking live also, whether it's in writing or the emojis that we use, but our body language as well, that is very important, as well as the tone of our voice. There's so many things, that, and communication is not always language. We have to remember that we can use sign language also to communicate. There's a lot of ways. Thank you.
I wanted to react as well. I'm here. Hello.
Hello.
So I absolutely agree with everything you mentioned, and I would like to say that many of us underestimate how important is this topic. So we focus in the movement on many things which can help the communities and the growth. But I think this topic, how we communicate, how is the atmosphere in the online community, is probably more important than many other things we do. And it is already not easy to practice this in the right way for ourselves, but it's also even more harder to reach that other people in the community who don't follow these best practices would change their mind and communicate in a better way. So this is a challenge which I think we should focus more.
Thank you. And we have someone at the back, and then Shahen, and then, I don't know your name. Corey. And we have the Clara, and yes, thank you. Thank you for making me feel heard.
What I wanted to say is that So Anna was mentioning something really important here, where communicating in the 21st century is already pretty hard, with everyone being distracted all the time and our attention spans getting smaller. But one thing that's a little harder than communicating in the 21st century is communicating with people of neurodivergent or like autism spectrum, let's say, capabilities. And we tend to forget that the majority of Wikimedians more or less have to be on the autism spectrum, including myself, because we keep forgetting that we are literally addicted to an online encyclopedia. That has to be an autism diagnosis right there. But what I wanted to say there is listening and communicating might be harder, but it always helps to be patient, and it always helps to try and understand what the other person's telling you by trying to be in their shoes and trying to understand what they want to get across. And I think it's beautiful what we have. Without neurodivergent people, we wouldn't have a lot of really cool things in the world.
Thank you, Shahen. And Corey, and then we'll move to the other side of the room. There.
Thank you. And I, like you, I am excited, not hungover, so I'm not at my most eloquent today. So I'm really interested in what you said about Cyprus as a multilingual community, but still in some sense cohesive. And I'm curious if you have any guidelines for communication that can apply to an online community that is multilingual, that can help prevent segmentation or misunderstanding, because I see that happening in online multilingual spaces.
It is quite challenging. I will say what's important is a blend of the two, like really creating spaces for the people to meet in person, or if it's not in person, I mean, even through online meetings, and translation, so that you reach them in their own native language, so that avoids, any miscommunication or misconception. It is quite challenging, though, I have to admit. This is something that was my goal from the beginning, to Cyprus come in the Wikimedia movement as one, and it's something that we struggle every day. And also because of the Cyprus problem, we have this bicommunal perspective of Greek Cypriots and Turkish Cypriots, but we have the Armenian community in Cyprus as well, the Maronite community, and which one is the fifth one, Zeus? Armenian, Latin, Maronite, Greek Cypriot, yes, Latin, yes, the Latin. So kind of we have 5 communities, and let alone now bring all, the people like the refugees or asylum seekers. That's a whole new, community. So, but we are trying to be as inclusive as possible. I think 2 things, like try to communicate people to their native language, and also create spaces so that they can meet each other, and have a real live conversations, and as a result, share the lived experiences.
First of all, thank you for the presentation. Sorry, I'm keeping my sunglasses. You whole partied a lot, had a lot of fun. I got the headache, so yes. So yeah, thank you very much for the presentation. And some solutions can exist also on the wiki, knowing that people don't want just to get a message on the talk page. They are actually looking for conversations. Most promising users are actually looking for ways to understand what's happening to them when they start editing. So don't believe that they are going to read help pages. Actually, you should read your help pages on the wikis. Very often they are not up to date. Often they are with the most important thing at the very top is not what they are actually looking for. And most important thing, consider to sign up a mentorship if it's not done at your wiki. There's a technical solution that exists for this, and join as a mentor. This is how you are going to help recruiting the next generation of users who are going to add contents and to become users with extended rights on the wiki. Doing this and easing with all the good advice you gave, making a better path for everyone to succeed would be a success for your wiki. So I really encourage you to think about the technical aspects that could help you. I can give you some advice about this, so yeah, feel free to reach. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you, Clara. And then Kirill, I think? Yeah.
Thank you, Anna, again for bringing this up. And I have like this, when you were speaking, I was thinking about this like advice from nonviolent communication, connection before correction. I think especially for our, I don't know how in your communities, but in Czech Republic we are pretty much focusing on mistakes on the first time and how to correct them before anything else, and it really doesn't create most supportive relationships. And the other thing I was thinking is like how to be more thoughtful on the events that we are creating. I think these are like really small things, like think of some like decompressing silent space for the one who need it, or like just create a space where are more safe, smaller groups with some like prepared, even like peer facilitators who know that if you are silent might mean as well that you are thinking about something and you should be approached for do you want to as well add something, like these small tips that somehow like bring more voices but like different speed. Sometimes someone needs to be like approached. So like maybe these small tips we all know, but we still don't like follow them fully, right? Like on our during our events, and so I'm rewinding still this to myself as well. And yeah, great to hear about it more. Thank you.
Thank you, Clara. Kirill, and then Maria Magdalena. Yes.
Okay. Thanks for the really creative presentation, and I really don't remember when was the last time that we had such an important topic presented in such a beautiful way. From my experience, usually the communication is a big problem in online communities, because in offline it's very, at offline events it's much easier to mitigate, to try to save the situation and to not see that the people may be hurt from something which was not done in the right way. And I suppose that here the main message should be sent to the people who are responsible for maintaining the problem and mediating in the conflicts that might result from communication issues. And I have noticed on different wikis that people are treated with, I mean, different users have different levels of tolerance and consider communication issues differently. For example, from one admin who mediates in a conflict, a confrontational tone may not be such a big problem as for another admin or another person participating. On the other hand, we also have users which have different levels of tolerance. For example, for someone, some comments might be insulting, but for others they may not be. So have you ever thought on how to deal with the situations in which some editors are more fragile and other editors are more tolerant towards such harsh communication skills? Is there anything that we can do in order to find the golden middle so that we optimize the communication on Wiki and retain as many prolific users as possible?
A very important question. A bit too early for me to respond to that. No, I think what comes to mind for me now is, because a lot of times I speak also about bullying or mobbing and harassment. So what I say is, when the other person responds negatively, just apologize and acknowledge that they have been, hurt, or that you've crossed their line of tolerance, because as you said, everybody has a different kind of line of tolerance. Just acknowledge, apologize, and move on. I think this is a simple thing that I can say. Don't engage into a hostile, or don't try to explain yourself. Just say, I apologize if you took it that way, and then just try to leave it there. I don't know, nothing else comes, especially in online, it's a bit hard. But I think just owning your mistake, even if you don't believe that it was a mistake, I think that is a good tactic in the beginning, at least, and with people that you don't really know. That because, first of all, you have to remember that maybe you're not speaking the same language, right? And it might be that specific moment that they were more, agitated. You don't know what other factors are in play at that moment. So I think the best first step is to just say, I apologize if that came across as hostile. That's not what I meant, and leave it there. I hope I helped. And
Anna, thank you very much for today. And I just want to underline the importance of establishing certain channels of communication inside of a small group. This is what I've noticed working in the last year, that having too many channels might create some issues and problems that will consume a lot of time. Because, yeah, we all are keen to different platforms more than, and I think inside of a smaller community, if there will be a democratic decision to establish a certain channel, it's what I've noticed. It's helping a lot, and it's improving the communication process and the decision process, actually. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Magda. Yeah, democracy, we are in the land, in the country where democracy was being born. So yeah, hopefully that is... Yes, so I think we are up with time. Nikos, help me out. Do we have... All right, any other questions or comments? Or then, if not, I will release you to go earlier for the coffee break. Thank you so much. Honestly, you've been an amazing audience.